let's talk about marketing, but probably not in the way you're used to thinking about it. We're going to go way beyond just catchy slogans and clever ads to ask a really fundamental question. Why does so much of it feel just draining? Let's dive in.
You know that feeling, right? That feeling of being completely worn out by the endless, non-stop stream of ads, messages, notifications. It's exhausting. Well, it is not just you. But here's a wild thought. What if that exhaustion isn't just some unfortunate side effect? What if it's actually the engine, the very mechanism that makes modern marketing work?
Okay, so here's the core idea that might just flip everything you think you know about marketing on its head. We all assume it's about persuasion, right? About convincing us, changing our minds. But what if that's not the main goal at all? What if the real work is happening somewhere else, on a much deeper, more fundamental level, long before we're even thinking about making a choice?
All right, so before we tear it all down, let's start with the familiar stuff. Let's talk about the marketing myth, what we think it is.
Yeah, we're all trained to look at marketing through these lenses, right? We talk about its creativity, the messaging, the branding, the whole shebang. Did it convert? Did it sell? And look, those aren't bad questions, but they're all circling the same drain. They all assume the point is to persuade you when you're ready to buy. But that's just scratching the surface. It's only the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, so if persuasion isn't the main event, then what is? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the real engine. And to do that, we got to shift our thinking away from psychology and towards something more like architecture. This really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the myth, persuasion. It's this idea that marketing just waits around for you to be at the point of making a choice. But the reality? It's completely different. It's about placing load. And notice this, it happens before a choice even exists. It's not waiting for you to be ready, it's actively creating pressure to force you to get ready. It does that by putting this load on your brain.
So what is this load we're talking about? The easiest way to think about it is like a tax, a cognitive tax. It's the mental energy you are forced to spend processing a message you never asked for in the first place. Marketing's #1 job, then, is to inject this load into your system, making you deal with it whether you like it or not.
So how do they do it? How is this load actually placed? Let's open up the marketer's toolkit and see. All right, tool #1, load injectors. You know exactly what these are. Those screaming headlines, the shocking images, the promises that are just way too good to be true. Their goal has nothing to do with informing you. It's about hijacking your attention. They are precision engineered to force an immediate reaction, to get your brain to fire, and in doing so, they drain your mental battery before you even know what's happening. Okay, next up in the toolkit is something I bet you've noticed, radical simplification. Marketing messages they hate nuance, don't they? But it's not because marketers think we're dumb. No, it's because from a purely structural point of view, complexity is just incredibly expensive. It takes too much work for our brains to process. And that's the trade-off right there. To get you into their world, into their funnel as fast as possible, they have to pave a really simple, really narrow path. So they make a deal. They trade away any chance of deep understanding for an incredibly easy entry point. All that messy, complicated, real-world stuff, it gets flattened out. And sure, that makes the message super easy to swallow, but it also robs you of what's really going on. Then you've got threshold compressors. Oh yeah, you know these. Limited time offer, only 3 left in stock. We all roll our eyes and call them cheap tricks. But if you look at their structure, their job is purely mechanical. They shrink the window of time you have to think. They compress your decision-making process, trying to force you to act before you can really, truly think it through. And the final tool, which is a huge one today, is identity targeting. This is when an ad basically says, hey, this is for people like you. And that is such a clever move, because what it does is it completely bypasses your normal, is this relevant to me filter. Instead, it taps right into that deep, powerful human need to belong. And that puts this subtle, or not so subtle, pressure on you to just go along with the group long before you figured out if this thing is actually right for you as an individual. So, we've got all this load being placed on us, constantly, day in and day out. What's the result? Well, there's a hidden cost here. And it is way, way bigger than just being a little annoyed by ads. And this is where we get to marketing fatigue. But let's be really clear about what this is. This isn't just boredom. It's not about being tired of seeing the same commercial. It is chronic load saturation. It's a state where your brain's operating system is just constantly taxed. It's permanently running in the red because it never stops processing all this incoming load. This is the path. This is how we get to that numb, checked out feeling. First, you've got the repeated exposure, right? The constant bombardment. That leads to step 2, chronic load saturation. Your system is just always overloaded. And over time, that starts to erode your coherence. It literally becomes harder to think clearly. So what's the final step? Your brain does the only smart thing it can do to protect itself. It starts to disengage, it numbs out.
And this is so important. The result is not rejection, but resentment. When marketing pushes too far, it's not that we just say no thanks and move on. It's something deeper. It's a corrosive feeling. It's resentment. That feeling that your personal mental space has been invaded and your energy has been stolen from you without you ever agreeing to. And that resentment, that's the root cause of so many of the problems that brands are tearing their hair out over. That cynicism we all have towards ads, check. That awful feeling of buyer's remorse, yep. The massive, widespread distrust in brands in general, it all grows from this same seed.
Okay, so we have this new model, this new way to see things. So what do we do with it? It's all about learning to ask a completely different and way more powerful question.
Let's put these two side by side one last time. Real information, it reduces uncertainty. It expands your thinking. It actually builds your ability to make sense of the world, your coherence. But marketing, the way we've been talking about it, often does the opposite. It creates uncertainty, that fear of missing out, to narrow your thinking and jam you into a decision. It spends your coherence. It's a withdrawal from your mental bank account.
So it all comes down to this. The next time an ad pops up, the next time you feel that little tug, what's the right question to ask yourself to cut through the noise and see what's really going on?
The old question was, is this persuasive? Forget that. The new question is this: what load is this placing on me, and what is it costing me to pay attention to it? The moment you start asking that question, everything changes. You stop being a target, and you become the architect of your own attention. And that, right there, is a superpower.